Good evening once again. It's Monday, the 8 o'clock, and it's time for the Monday review show. I almost forgot the date. I still can't remember the date, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's Monday night, it's 8 o'clock, and it's time for the Monday review show. And this is where Keith and I discuss all things refereeing. As you may or may not be aware, and you must be under a rock somewhere if you don't, if you're not aware, that the Euros kicked off last Friday. And matches are continuing 3 per day, 2 p.m. Here in Ireland and in the UK, 2 p.m., 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Now, already we've had a few instances that we would like to talk about. But before we get into the games itself, I'd just like to talk to Keith about, so it's like an initiative, if you like, is it by the FA or the PGMOL, about getting ex-players to become referees?
Yes, this comes up on a cyclical basis. I can remember in my period of office at the PGMOL, the panacea was get some professional players in, bring them in, and they put a number of players through the system, and then they all passed the examination. We all thought they might come through, and as soon as they got a job within football, either physiotherapy, coaching, or whatever, zoom, they're gone. And of course, we then had, we've had a history in England of having some really good ex-players, professional players, becoming referees. Bob Matheson played for Bolton Wanderers and became a professional. Well, he became a Football League referee, and on to the international panel, and refereed at the top level. He was an outstanding referee. We had Steve Baines from Mansfield. He was a professional player for some years and then became a referee. He officiated on the Football League. He didn't advance to the international panel. And then you've had people like George McKay, way back 1966 World Cup referee from Sheffield. He was a goalkeeper, Mick Lowe. So that there have already been a number of ex-professional players who've gone through the system of stopping playing, taking the referee's examination, and been on exactly the same pathway as any other referee who'd not played the game. So what have we got? We've got clearly the view by many administrators that a professional player will make a very good referee. That almost says that anybody can become a referee, and I don't think that's the case. And they've had 120 respondents to this idea, and they're going to cut that down to either 10 or 12 players, or then really? Going to go, and they're then going to go through a very intense program of laws of the game, practical games application, and we await the outcome. You're not going to get a Premier League referee, a Premier League player saying, I want to be a Premier League referee. The simple fact is that if you're earning upwards of $250,000 a week, you're not going to go £100,000 a year if that is the salary that current referees earn.
And Keith, remember, way back in the 70s, late 70s, I did the English prelim coaching badge here in Ireland. There was an FA coach sent over, and he conducted it. And there were 4 modules, I remember at the time. But he said the one module that a lot of the prospective coaches failed on was the laws of the game. They all knew how to bend the ball and side kick it and flick it and whatever. But when it came to the laws of the game, that's the module they all failed on.
Yeah. I think that the target audience is going to be probably out of the academies, those players that are not going to be retained. And the option is they find another club. But when they're in that process of knowledge, I'm leaving the academy and I've got to find another academy, there's an insurance policy that says, okay, I'll take up refereeing. Because there's somebody going to pay me for a course for over a period of time, And in that period of time, it gives me breathing space to probably get back in the game. I'm being cynical.
No, I understand. Yeah.
But I think,
and you're probably right.
I think those are the challenges that they face.
I wonder, in the past, if you can remember, because this is the first time I've heard of this. I heard about the whole thing about, when players retire, they should take up refereeing and so on and so on. In the past, you mentioned one or two that did go on to top class, but of this 120, did you say they're only going to retain about 10 or 12?
No, yeah, what's going to happen is they're narrowing that down to 10 or 12 people who will go on the course.
And how will they do that?
Well, I assume that what they'll do is they'll run training camps, probably at St. George's for probably a few weeks, with probably one-to-one training on the laws of the game, examinations, fitness tests, and then they'll go into practical sessions where I suggest that games will take place, and they'll be mic'd up, and they'll be advised where to run and what to do, and they'll go through that process. What they'll try and do is compact it all. So we've not had the detail of what's going to be the course, but I'm guessing that's going to be the case. The Premier League window dressing to say, look, we know what you think about referees, and everybody's saying we should have ex-professional players, so we're going to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm joining you in the cynical side of this argument. It does appear to be a bit of window dressing by the FA.
Yeah. Well, the reality is at the moment, when you actually look at the performances of the referees at these Euros, some of which have been, I think, outstanding, you then see the differential between the quality that we're seeing from other countries compared to what we see in the Premier League week in, week out. That's the reality.
And that dovetails nicely with the next item on the agenda, which is the referees at the Euros. Now, I thought Clement Turpin in the opening game, I thought he was excellent.
Yeah,
he was calm, he was cool, he was authoritative, he was in charge. No dramatics, no just.
And of course,
just remembers. Do you remember Roger
Kirkpatrick?
Kirkpatrick, yeah, he used to do the sideburns, and he had a bit of a belly, and he used to charge up and down the field.
Yeah. I think that what we saw in Clement Turpin is a very experienced referee. It's a very difficult game, that opening game. I did the opening game of the '88 Euros in Germany way back, and there were that many people from UEFA telling me how I had to referee that game. Mr. Hackett, we don't want too many yellow cards, because if we have yellow cards, we will lose the big players in the tournament. I went out and refereed it in the normal way that I would referee it. But then, of course, in '88, we would fly in and fly out. There was no camp. There was no, so it was just like a normal European game with for me, one additional day. So I was over the period of the game, 4 days. In 2 days before, then the preparation, then all the team talks of what you'll do and how you'll referee and all that nonsense. And then had the match, and the following day, afternoon, flew home, and that was it. That was Euros. Whereas now we're into training camp, sports psychology, and a much more effort by Roberto Rossetti to get consistency. But look, you and I know that the opening games are the opening games, and everybody's feeling each other out. And there's got this insurance that it doesn't matter, boys, if you lose a game, we've got 2 more games to play. It's when we get into the knockout stages, I believe we'll see a change of attitude from managers and from players, and they'll be more aggressive. And this only being able to speak to gaps will result in a plethora of yellow cards.
Do you think the referees will be strong enough to stand up to the, as I call them, soccer politicians? I mean, they just have their grubby little fingers in every aspect of refereeing. You know, and they're telling you how to do the game. They're only concerned about their own.
Yeah, I think that what you have in Roberto Rossetti is he lays down the law, and there's expectation that referees will follow his instructions. His instructions are very clear. Only the captain can speak to the referee, and already we're seeing that. He's done the work off the field with the managers and the players, and they're behaving quite well in that area, with the captain questioning on the odd occasion the decision. There's no surrounding of the referee at the moment on the big decisions. And of course, they're being allowed, when they go to the monitor, free access. And the one thing that's noticeable and highlights for me is that they're using the semi-automated offside system, which I've called for the Premier League to introduce, and they've actually now agreed partway through next season it will be introduced. What this does is it uses its own camera systems, it uses artificial intelligence through computer systems, and it reduces the waiting time, and it gives you through AI and the points on each player gives you a more accurate call. So what we have seen, where there's been offside decisions or checking for an offside after a goal has been scored, we've seen a pretty quick response. And the other side of it at this moment in time, we've also seen VAR operating very clearly to the criteria of clear and obvious. And therefore, I think Rossetti has said, the referee is in charge here. You're there to assist him. And we don't want overindulgence. This is how Europe, UEFA, operates with its assistant referees. We don't want you to be overindulgent. You know, in my era, they used to say to assistant referees, we only want you to flag ball in and out of play. And if it's offside, it's got to be clear, very clearly offside. So I think, you know, with the move of technology, the interrogation by television companies, we have in the semi-automated system an advance, in my opinion, in terms of VAR.
I remember a very good referee who's since passed away a number of years, but he used to say here in Ireland, he said, at that time, he said, if he's nearly onside, he's definitely offside. So it had to be clear cut, you know. The referees in general, apart from Clement Turpin, Daniel Ossati from
Italy. I thought last night, I generally was praiseworthy of his performance. I think that he's a very experienced referee. I think he took some risk, which is unusual in a tournament. He applied some really first-class advantages, and I thought that side of the game was pretty good.
Yeah, it's apparently his last major tournament as well. So
he's announced his retirement. So either he's not going to do Serie A next season. He's 48, I think. So he might. Who knows? He might be in Saudi Arabia. We don't know, do we?
That's where they're all going. And Michael Oliver.
Well, Oliver, I think, was let down in his game with the VAR. There was a foul. I don't think there was any question that it was a foul challenge, worthy of a penalty kick. Michael gave the penalty. It was checked, confirmed. He issued a yellow card, and I waited because I'd seen instantly this was red card. There was no attempt by the defender to challenge for the ball. He fouled his opponent. So there was no play for the ball, which would bring in this double jeopardy on denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. So I immediately discarded that and said, that's a red card. And I just like waited and waited. And when it didn't materialize, I'm thinking that is one massive error. Okay, you can argue it didn't impact on the scoreline, but what it does do is it allows a player who should have been suspended to play in the next round for Spain.
Mm-hmm. It also puts other referees under unnecessary pressure, I guess, because they will say, well, and they do, Keith, I find the referees do tend to err on the side of caution. Just will step back from them making that crucial and sometimes obvious decision, but they just won't make it because of perhaps the repercussions, the backlash from the fans, from the players, from the coaches. They shouldn't really be worrying about things like that if they are.
No, they shouldn't. I think that what you've got to do is you should be sent to the monitor and the referee should make his judgment. I don't think that I mean, just have a second look, and you have a second look, and you can see it is denial, and you go, it's no good saying there's double jeopardy or he made an attempt for the ball. There was no way he made an attempt for the ball. So sadly, it was a wrong decision. It may impact on his next appointments,
And that's the problem, that's the problem. And generally, when I see the likes of Michael Oliver and Anthony Taylor and these guys going into Europe, they seem to referee differently and more assertively in Europe than they do at home in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I just wondered, why do they have double standards, for want of a better word?
I mean, apart from that, because the frequency of which referees in the Premier League officiate teams, I don't think helps the process. In my era, as a non-professional referee in a professional game, we would referee all 92 clubs. Yeah. So 1 week we'd be at Division 1, next 2, 3 or 4. Now they're Premier League referees refereeing 20 teams, basically. And, I think a couple of years ago, Michael Oliver had Liverpool 7 times in a season, Spurs 7 times in a season. And look, I'm not questioning his integrity. There's a familiarization that I think doesn't help. Familiarity, sometimes you've got to be independent. And I think that they're going to Europe, and for me, I think it's very clear. Rossetti gives leadership, he gives advice, and he communicates very clearly what his expectations are. And if you don't adhere to those instructions, you don't get another game.
Yeah, I like that.
He's very clear. He stands up in front of the referees and says, this is how we're going to deal with this decision. But, people before him have done the same. Kalina, the previous boss, did the same. And of course, they follow that up with videos. So the referees go on a platform, they can look at decisions, and Rossetti will watch some of the decisions they make in the Premier League and make comments about that. So I think he's very clear that he watches referees, he works hard at it. He himself was quite a competent referee as an international FIFA referee, having had big games. I think so far he's going to be generally happy with what is being produced by the referees. However, he's going to come under pressure from Belgium, I think, with this afternoon's game, where we saw another piece of technology in operation. In cricket, we have the snicker, where the ball, if it strikes the bat, produces a strike on the ground.
Yeah.
And of course, because they've got the Adidas ball in operation with the chip inside it, an additional benefit of that being able to help the speed of the process of offside decisions, it also detects contact. So ends in this situation where a goal had been scored. VAR in the check determines that there has been a suspicion of a handball, sends the referee to the monitor, and the referee then has to make this judgment. Is the action of the player deliberate? Was the movement of his hand towards the ball? We're not getting into the situation of did he make the body shape bigger? We're talking about the law on handball. Was it deliberate? And was it an offence? And here's the subjectivity. I'd put
based on the cricket principle, it was a handball. That the hand. Did the hand interfere with the direction of the ball? Or did it influence the direction of the ball? It doesn't appear to. But if that's a new thing, because this chip is in the ball and will detect whether a hand touched the ball, I mean, where are we going with this?
Well, we're very clear. Technology has to fall behind the law. Mm-hmm. And the law on handball states the very first word, is it deliberate? And is there movement of the hand towards the ball? Now, I have doubts. When I looked at it, I didn't think it was deliberate. That's my opinion. Now I look at, was there movement towards the ball? Because you interrogate like a piece of a jigsaw when you look at these decisions. You can't do it on the field of play, but when you're interrogating a decision, you have to go through the process. So I'm now looking at, was there movement to the hand to the ball? And when I looked at that, I think the influence of the movement of the player was influenced by the defender. The defender's made contact with the forward, and therefore there's contact between the two players. And therefore, I'm now beginning to say, look, I'm really going to find it difficult to rule out a goal on the subjectivity of what is taking place in front of me. And for me, and this is my opinion, I don't think that was a deliberate handball in the first place. Now, I think what the lawmakers have got to do is, if they're going to say contact with the ball is sufficient, then with the technology they've got, fine, bring the law into line with the technology, in the same way I'm saying that with offside law as well. But here, what has happened is David Ellery rewrote the laws of the game to simplify them. And in fact, the outcome has been to complicate them.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, because where does this go on from? Is the contact with the ball, and on all the time the referee has to make a decision, where in the past it was the movement of the hand towards the ball, not the ball towards the hand. Now, correct, you could see as the guy was running like that the hand was going forward, but you do that in a natural and a normal running position anyway. Yeah. So it's like you say, in my opinion, IFAB have messed up the whole thing.
Yeah, they have.
Absolutely complicated everything.
I think it makes it very difficult for referees because, when you broaden the subjectivity around an incident, you're not going to get, what it does is you start getting into the realms of 70-30. 70 referees would give it, 30 wouldn't. Yeah. And then you with the weaker referees, right? This could be either way, taken by either way. The referee goes, well, he's touched the hand, I can justify it.
Yeah.
This contact,
and that's probably what happened today.
I can justify handball.
Showing that he touched the ball today.
And of course the other thing is that I've not experienced it, and neither of you, and that is during the course of the game, somebody saying, look, you need to review your decision. You don't know the psychological impact on that because the game's going well for me. And I still believe in that walk towards that screen monitor. You're going to change your decision. rarely are you going to stick with it, because then what you're doing is you're passing the ball and the blame to the VAR. And you're going, well, just a minute. The VAR is sat in a room, is in the comfort of his home. He can play it 20 times. I'm going to run towards the screen, and under pressure, I'm not going to go nose up. But I do think that we miss a trick, because when you see the rugby referees going, they take control. The referee takes control. I need to see that again. Play that slow motion. Play that normal speed. There's a conversation. We don't know what the conversation's going on. And what he goes is, well, all right then. These two of us looked at it. We'll give it handball.
The late, great Ron Greenwood, you know, the West Ham manager, used to say, football is a simple game. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, and now I think that the lawmakers, you know, and in fairness, the interrogation of the referees' performances, you know, when we look at the ITV programs covering the World Cup, they brought in Christine Unkel, who, I hope I pronounced her name correctly, who is a former referee in America. Her husband, in fact, is an MLS referee, so he's on the pro ref. She's a lawyer by profession. She was a competent referee, and they're now using her as the expert. So again, you know, ITV now, the commentators can call upon a lawyer, a former referee, to assist them in guiding them through it. Now, I don't know what a decision is. I thought it was interesting on that, a foul challenge, where instantly I'm saying that's a penalty. And I'm not being clever here. I think it's better when you're sat in front of a TV screen. You get greater clarity. I haven't run 100 yards or whatever. And, you know, all of a sudden, the commentator says, well, we'll go over to Christine Unkel and find her view. And, of course, you're getting a crackling and the phone's not live. And you suddenly go, yeah, what's happening here? You know, you can't, you know, you become suspicious. You can't sit on the fence. But I do think, given the past performances of Mark Clattenburg and Mike Dean and Dermot Gallagher, that they're right in looking at bringing in someone to actually do the analysis with a great knowledge of law.
Another thing Rossetti, just to wind up, brought in was captains only can speak to the referee to not question, but to seek clarification. It's working to some degree, but maybe it will in these earlier stages when a defeat in the first round of 3 games is not the end of the world. They can go on and win the next 2 games and still qualify. When it gets to the knockout stages, can you see that coming under pressure, that thing of captains only?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, just to clarify, of course, if the goalkeeper is the captain, then the team has to nominate an outfield player. So they get over that particular problem because of that situation. Though I think there's 2 or 3 things come together here in terms of player behavior in Europe. One, I think when you're representing your country, your discipline generally is a little better. There's less passion, and there's almost a gentleman's type of scenario operating. But in reality, there is the sort of Damocles standing over everybody, because 2 yellow cards in a tournament is suspension.
Yeah. So
they know that once they've collected one, in the next game, it'll affect their performance, because if they do another one, they're suspended. So I think that is a big say-so. I do generally think that he will have done a lot of work off the field with managers, with players, educating them, saying, this is what we got. We're going to allow you to talk as the captain to the referee and approach in the right manner, you will get an answer. You will not influence his decision, but you will get an answer. And that's it. And because I believe that they watch the Premier League in particular, and other countries as well, but we see too many players surrounding the referee and the referee not doing anything about it. I'll tell you, if the player is surrounded in this tournament and he doesn't do anything about it, he'll be on the next plane home, because that's the difference in this tournament. You know, you have an indifferent performance and you're likely to be on the plane home.
Well, that's Rossetti again, isn't it? Being strong,
Well,
and
I think
hopefully he continues that.
I think that's the history of European competitions. The expectation that you will deliver an elite performance and you will make the least amount of errors, and they're unforgiving. You know, they put in a lot of effort in training. Yeah.
Just a quick comment there from Sean Blackie. He said thanks for the Michael Oliver discussion. You're very welcome, Sean, and thank you for contacting the show. That's it. It's all over. Till the next time, next Monday again, please, Keith. Hope you're available. We'll do it all again. And to all of you out there, thank you for watching. Until next Monday, same time, 8 o'clock. Lots more, I'm sure, going to happen this week in the continuation of the Euros 24. Till then, thank you for watching. Good night and God bless. Thank you.